I've been making minigames for over 7 months now, and I wanted to know which of the minigames are the most liked by you guys. So I created this Google Forms poll and asked the voters to rate minigames on a scale of 1 to 10 based on how much you enjoyed the concept, or if you're one of the players in the video, how much you enjoyed playing the minigame itself. Without further ado, let's start from the bottom. In last place, it's the Subway Surfers minigame with 5.57 score. This was one of the most difficult minigame in terms of enforcing the rules, especially the no breaking walls or the no going over water rule. I didn't think this was a bad minigame personally, it just lacked spectacle and memorability to justify rating it any higher. The glass bridge minigame was one of the earliest minigame I've created. It got an average rating of 6.01. In hindsight, I should have made the players be Nico instead of Dynamite. There were also difficulties with the RTs getting to their designated boxes in time. It's also one of the hardest minigame for the viewers to replicate themselves, as it needs 3 RTs communicating whether a player landed on their blind spot or not. But looking back, I'm kind of glad that I've at least gotten better at making the minigames easier to execute. Escape Beyonce got a 6.03 average score, only 0.02 higher than the Glass Bridge minigame. Notably, it has higher 1 out of 10 rating than the Glass Bridge minigame, despite it being ranked higher. I didn't mind this minigame, but it's basically just an Escape Lola clone minigame, which isn't too groundbreaking or interesting. The Chopped Chin minigame got an average rating of 6.09. After doing a property in Egypt and Eye of Ra minigame, I wanted to make this Chopped Chin minigame to complete the trinity of early 2025 brain rot. And honestly, I was kind of proud that I was even able to come up with something for this meme. Sadly, it ended up not being nearly as good as the property in Egypt and Eye of Ra minigame. But even though the video didn't do well at all, at least I completed the trinity. The Valentine minigame got a 6.12 score, placing 20th out of the 24 minigames I've done. I liked the random wheel aspect of the minigame. It made it much more entertaining in the long run. But the biggest flaw with this minigame is that there's way too much focus on the hater, as the rest of the lobby can simply win just by killing one person. I added additional rules in the end, such as the added hater, and also no longer coordinating which lovers to pick for each person, which I'd say made the minigame better, but the first impressions weren't there. Also, some of the players mixed up the rules for this minigame with the Chopped Chin minigame, because they're both pretty similar in concept. The Throw the Bot to Box minigame got an average score of 6.38, which is a pretty big jump from the previous place. I'm not really sure if this even counts as a minigame, but I just put it in there because it would be my first minigame video. And views-wise, this is one of my best performing video of all time, but considering its placement here, the same thing can't be said about the concept. Although I really liked the idea, actually trying to throw the bot to the box was a real headache. Failing over and over was frustrating, but the triumph of finally putting the bot to the box was well worth the struggle. So honestly, I don't agree with the low placement of this one. The Breaking Bad minigame is one I've put significantly more effort into making than other minigames, as I have to connect 10 characters from Breaking Bad to Brawl Stars and make alliances for them 5 different times. It got an average of 6.43, which is actually on par with how many views this video got. I guess there's not much Brawl Stars players that watches Breaking Bad, even though they're both pretty popular. We see another big jump in rating, with Escape Lunchley's Moldy Cheese minigame getting a 6.77 average score, 0.34 higher than the previous one. This is definitely one of the funnier concepts, but gameplay-wise, it's very shallow. You try to avoid getting killed by a Dina Super, that's about it. But it ranked higher than minigames I consider to be one of the better ones, so I guess humor can compensate for lack of depth. Next up, we've got a tie in the rankings, the Miko Obby and RT Hide and Seek minigame, with both of them getting a 6.78 average rating. For Miko Obby, it's pretty simple. An obstacle course where the Miko tries to avoid the red tile, and the jump pads and land spikes that can knock you back to one. And for the RT Hide and Seek, I low-key forgot that this video exists, so I'm kind of surprised that it got this high up. Next up is the 18 Power Cubes minigame, with an average score of 6.90. I'm sure I'm not original to this idea, but it's a pretty fun minigame, especially if you're the one with all of the power cubes. Also, I don't know why I put 18 power cubes instead of 20 as the title. I know that Mapmaker spawns between 16 to 20 cubes in the map if there's more than 16. I guess it's because 18 is the middle ground, huh? The Protect Boxes from Water Walkers minigame got 6.96. This is the shortest minigame video I've made, not because each round ends quickly, but because there's not much to highlight per round. Overall, it's not a bad minigame, but not great either. so pretty middle of the road for this one. Now we're moving up to the 7 rated minigame, starting with the Frank Tower Defense minigame, which received a 7.05 score. I think by the time 5v5 Heist comes around, this minigame will wind up being mundane, but the minigame itself is really enjoyable. There was multiple strategies displayed by the players, the saddest one being Mandy, because her super couldn't actually reach the enemy Frank. Overall, a very fun minigame indeed. Next is the Angels vs Demons Turf War minigame with an average score of 7.11. Fortunately, this minigame can still be played even without the Angels vs Demons event. The minigame itself is very unpredictable. There's great variance in team strength, with it all boiling down to luck. The randomness feels fresh and gives the minigame high variance, but at the same time, it can feel unfair and unfun, especially if you end up in a 2v8 situation like I did. With a 7.19 average score, the Low Taper Fade minigame marks the start of the top 10 of this list. Thematically, there was really only 2 ninja skins in the game at that time, it being Street Ninja Tara and Ninja Ash, so I allowed the players to pick other brawlers, but asking them to play a ninja skin if they have one. The Rockabilly Mortys, though, was a must, so there was plenty of skin requirements to play this minigame to its fullest. That said, I liked how it turned out in the end, definitely deserving of the top 10 placement. At number 9, we have the Escape EDP 445 minigame, averaging 7.24 score. This is basically just an escape minigame with 2 killers in my opinion. Aside from it being EDP, I honestly don't think that this minigame is all that interesting. But once again, it is kind of funny. The Eye of Ra minigame received a 7.33 score. This minigame, in my opinion, had the best maps that I've made for it. The minigame itself, though, was really fun as well. I love minigames where I can sabotage other players and make them lose. This one is a surprise for me. The Death Run got an average of 7.36 score, placing it 7th on the list. Also, this one isn't an original minigame from me. It's an already existing concept, but with 5 throwers and 5 runners in my variant. I did have fun playing it, especially that one round where I won, but I don't think it deserves this high of a ranking, at least compared to the others. Coming in at 6th place is the Duck Hunt minigame, with a score of 7.41. You guys seem to really enjoy this one. I definitely think that this is a good minigame, but because of the multiple instances of me going ahead of the pack so that we won't get swallowed by the smoke, and it ending up with me dying first, was a pretty unpleasant experience to say the least. I do think that this is a much better version of Death Run than the other one, though. Coming in at number 5, we have the Squid Game Season 2 minigames with a 7.48 average rating. As of right now, this video is my most viewed minigame video. I think the pentathlon were more of a challenge than it is a minigame, but the Mingle one was really great. I was worried that since there'd only be 9 players that the number of players per room would be predictable and repetitive, but it ended up getting pretty chaotic, especially since they're allowed to force others out of a room or just straight up demolishing each other. The Cordelius Arena fight is 4th place, with a 7.50 average rating. This was originally supposed to be a Willow puppet fight, but Willow's super only lasts for 4 seconds, which is way too short to have a fight. So someone in the lobby chat suggested Cordelius. Bless that person. This minigame felt super enjoyable. Even if the Cordelius themselves are not allowed to fight, we'll still very much enjoy sending one of their minions to fight the other person's minion and watching the fight. Very fun minigame. The 3rd place of this ranking goes to the Escape Brawler series, with an average score of 7.52. This series is a certified Robert to Clerius classic. Though the concept is very simple, it's just such an entertaining concept. I've played multiple variants of this minigame, and never got bored of it. Simplicity is the key to happiness and good minigames, and that's the name of the game for this minigame. The silver medal goes to the Property in Egypt minigame with an average score of 7.61. Concept-wise, this is my personal favorite minigame. I can say for certain that this minigame is the one I'm proudest of making. The only downside to this is that it might be a little too complex, seeing as multiple rules were broken during the video. The number 1 minigame, by a large, dare I say massive margin, goes to Escape Diddy's Party minigame, with a whopping 8.04 average score, significantly higher than the rest of the entries here. The thematics, humor, concept, everything about this minigame was great. And I really liked that the focus for this minigame was the 1,000 bottles of baby oil being replicated with 2 Loos charging super off of each other and quote, oiling up the runners for Diddy, instead of the focus being the other stuff Diddy has done. That's it for the rankings. I think it was pretty spot on, aside from a few odd placements here and there. Hope you enjoyed the rankings, and I will be going back to the kitchen to cook up some more minigames for you guys.